Chapter 1485. Following Little Pig's voice in an instant, boom, 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 boom. Around Luo Qingtong and the Huo family's patriarch, the rows of ferocious beast statues that were squatting on both sides of the passageway cracked open. The layers of soil on their bodies receded, revealing their true forms. It turned out that these statues were all real ferocious beasts. However, it was sealed here by a special power and turned into a statue. Now that they were awakened by Little Pig, they immediately came back to life. Roar. Those ferocious beasts suddenly roared toward the sky, their roars shaking the heavens. Naturally, the ferocious beasts that were captured and sealed here were not weak. These ferocious beasts were all at the saint rank. As soon as they woke up, they immediately pounced toward Luo Qingtong and the others. To be precise, they pounced toward the Huo family's patriarch behind her. What? The Huo family's patriarch was shocked when he saw these ferocious beast statues that suddenly woke up and felt the vast power coming from them. What's going on? How did these ferocious beast statues wake up so quickly? He didn't have time to think too much and directly sent a palm strike toward a saint-rank ferocious beast that was pouncing toward him. Bang! The saint-rank ferocious beast was sent flying by the powerful force contained in his palm. However, even more ferocious beasts arrived in front of him. There were no less than 100 ferocious beast statues in this passageway. Under Little Pig's command, they all rushed toward the Huo family's patriarch. Boom, boom. The Huo family's patriarch's figure was instantly blocked by a pile of ferocious beasts. At the same time, Little Pig hurriedly urged Luo Qingtong, "Quick, let's go through that bronze door." He used the supreme pressure in his soul to awaken these sealed ferocious beasts. However, the truth was that those ferocious beasts were all sealed there to guard the bronze gate. Why were there no traps in this passageway? It was because these ferocious beast statues were guarding it. Little Pig temporarily summoned the souls of these ferocious beasts and made them listen to his commands. However, most of his power was sealed, so he could only use a little of it. These ferocious beasts could only listen to it for a limited time. Luo Qingtong had to enter the bronze gate as soon as possible. This was to prevent the souls of these ferocious beasts from once again obeying the power of the seal after leaving. At that time, Luo Qingtong would also suffer together with Patriarch Huo. Got it. Luo Qingtong had already noticed the strangeness of these ferocious beast statues. Therefore, when Little Pig told her to charge forward, she didn't have any doubts or hesitation. As soon as Little Pig finished speaking, she had already dashed to the bronze door, pulled it open and rushed in. Buzz. When Luo Qingtong pulled on the door, the figures of the ferocious beast statues suddenly paused, the red light in their eyes flashing fiercely. But in the next second, they were suppressed by their spiritual intelligence, and once again roared and rushed towards the Huo family's patriarch, who was surrounded by them. After Luo Qingtong rushed through the bronze door, she looked up and saw a huge room. The room's furnishings were extremely luxurious and gorgeous. Countless vines wrapped around the room's walls, pillars, making it look extremely magnificent. At this time, Luo Qingtong's gaze swept over a place in front of her. Her pupils instantly shrank. Chapter 1486. Luo Qingtong's gaze landed on a gigantic purple-gold coffin that took up almost a third of the room. The lid of the gigantic bronze coffin was not closed, revealing a corpse inside. It was a middle-aged man. He wore a dark green robe, and his body rippled with an extremely formidable and fierce aura that was practically on the verge of splitting the sky apart. If it was anyone else who entered this place, they might not have felt anything. However, Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes saw that the purple-gold coffin was surrounded by crisscrossing spirit qi. All of it was emitted from the purple-gold coffin. The corpse was lifelike. If not for Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes confirming that he was indeed not breathing, she would have thought that it was a person sleeping inside. The Saint King's golden coffin. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly as she looked at the corpse lying in the purple-gold coffin. Needless to say, this middle-aged man was the owner of this Saint King's tomb, a Saint Realm Saint King powerhouse. I didn't expect this to be the burial place of this Saint King powerhouse. Luo Qingtong previously thought that this was some mysterious place. It was also strange. Why would this Saint King powerhouse make a light projection map of his burial place and hide it in that jade thumb ring and let others know? Wasn't this a taboo for ordinary powerhouses? Every tomb of a powerhouse was filled with layers of mechanisms and traps. The bone burial ground was a place that was carefully hidden for fear that someone would disturb their slumber. This Saint King powerhouse's hobby was quite unique. He deliberately told others about his burial place so that others could come and pay their respects. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. Her gaze circled around the purple gold coffin and was about to move away to look at other places. She did not forget that she had rushed in to find the location of that spirit power. The Hua family head was still outside the door. Little Pig said that he would not be able to block him for long. However, just as Luo Qingtong's gaze was about to move away, the purple gold coffin seemed to have sensed her entry and lit up with a hum. Then a faintly discernible figure suddenly rose from the purple gold coffin, carrying a boundless golden light. After waiting for 1,000 years, you're finally here? My successor. As the golden light dissipated, the faintly discernible figure also appeared in front of Luo Qingtong, causing her to squint her eyes. Not for anything else, but the face of this figure was the face of the middle-aged man inside the purple gold coffin. The Saint King's soul? No, I'm just a strand of his soul. That faintly discernible figure floated above the purple gold coffin, looking down at Luo Qingtong. Are you the successor I've been waiting for? After waiting for 1,000 years, someone finally succeeded. Successor, come on up. Since you're able to pass through all the obstacles and reach here as a martial ancestor, you're qualified to inherit my strength and cultivation. Although my strength has been greatly weakened after 1,000 years, the remaining strength is enough to raise your strength and cultivation to the saint realm. Come on up. My successor will inherit my life's glory and my legacy. I will continue to spread my glory and glory. Chapter 1487. In the blink of an eye, traces of the crisscrossing spiritual qi around the huge purple gold coffin were immediately revealed. Then it retreated to the sides, revealing a passage that led straight to the giant purple gold coffin. Inheritance. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. She looked at the figure floating above the purple gold coffin, and the corners of her lips suddenly curled up. There was an indescribable meaning in her smile. Okay. She nodded at the figure and said, Then I thank you for your selflessness. What do I need to do? As she spoke, she walked all the way to the giant purple gold coffin. Looking at it up close, the corpse looked even more lifelike, as if it could open its eyes and wake up at any time. 1,000-year-old corpse, immortal and undecayed. All the strength condensed into one body. Was this the power of a Saint King? Was this the power of a Saint Realm expert? Then how powerful would the Supremacy Realm and Supremacy Realm experts be? For some reason Luo Qingtong inexplicably thought of Xianxia. That man had the heavenly vein body. She did not know how powerful his true strength was. However, Luo Qingtong had a vague feeling that the other party's strength was above the monarch realm. She did not know what level of strength he was at. She still had a long way to go. But it did not matter. Being reborn was only interesting like this, wasn't it? It was rare for her to meet such a man in such a world that she could not reach. The battle intent in her heart was very excited. One day she would stand at the top of the world's strength, reach out to that man and tell him that he was hers. Luo Qingtong's lips curled slightly, then she looked up at the figure floating above the giant purple gold coffin. The latter's face was faintly excited. You just need to pick up the glazed lamp that my corpse is holding. As he spoke, he raised his finger and pointed at the giant purple gold coffin below him. All of my strength has been sealed in this lamp in order to reduce the consumption of my strength as much as possible, waiting for an inheritor like you to appear. As long as you pick up this glazed lamp, all of my experience, power and comprehension will be transferred to you. At that time, you'll be able to become a saint stage expert. Moreover, the power I possess will allow you to advance from the saint stage to the Saint King stage without any bottlenecks in the future. Come on up, my successor. Obtain my power. One step, ascending to heaven. That figure's voice was filled with arrogance. Luo Qingtong's eyes swept over, following his words to look inside the giant purple gold coffin. Sure enough, under the two sleeves of the corpse she saw a glass jade lamp. That glass jade lamp was covered by his sleeves, and it was shrouded by the power of a Saint King expert. If it were not for him, Luo Qingtong might not have discovered it. The color of this glass jade lamp was very beautiful. The whole body was made of glass and the entire wick seemed to be transparent, flickering with a faint white light. The lampshade outside was in the shape of a lotus. Against the white wick, this glass jade lamp seemed to be unusually holy and bright, as if it was shrouded in a layer of invisible light. This is it. Luo Qingtong looked at this glass jade lamp. Her eyes flashed slightly and she raised her hand to pick it up. Chapter 1488. Haha. Following Luo Qingtong's actions, the figure floating above the purple gold coffin laughed heartily. Congratulations. My successor will be able to obtain all of my power. However, at this moment his voice suddenly became sharp and ruthless. Give me your body. Following his loud laughter, an extremely powerful force suddenly erupted from the corpse lying in the purple gold coffin and blasted directly into Luo Qingtong's body. Waves of tyrannical force washed over Luo Qingtong's body like a river bursting through a dam, rapidly expanding and filling her dantian and meridians. Under such circumstances, Luo Qingtong's strength continued to soar. Even after thousands of years, the remaining power of a Saint King realm expert was enough to cleanse and upgrade Luo Qingtong's meridians to the extreme. Boom boom boom. As the aura in Luo Qingtong's body soared. In her mind, a strand of soul power suddenly rushed into her. In an instant, it swept through every corner of her mind. My 1,000 years of waiting were not in vain. This body is actually the supreme mixed yuan body. It can accommodate thousands of powers and is compatible with all. That wave of soul power laughed heartily. It was the figure floating above the purple gold coffin. At this moment, as Luo Qingtong picked up the glazed jade lamp, the power and soul sealed in the corpse all blasted into Luo Qingtong's body. He had been sealed here for 1,000 years and had marked this place on the light map of the jade ring so that someone could come here and remove his seal, allowing his soul to possess another body and be reborn. What surprised the Saint King's soul was that Luo Qingtong's aptitude was much more monstrous than he had imagined. The mixed yuan body contained everything. In her hands, any kind of power could be fused into one, and she could use it freely without any restrictions. This was a supreme saint body. He had only heard of this holy king's soul in ancient books. When he saw that Luo Qingtong's body had absorbed all of his power, he would have lost at least half of his power. However, in Luo Qingtong's supreme immemorial body, his power was absorbed without any loss. Immediately he was overjoyed and laughed wildly. I can't believe I've obtained such a supreme saint body. The heavens are really protecting me. Little baby, you can go in peace. Your body and constitution, I'll take them all. When you reach the peak in the future and seek the path of the heavens, your name will naturally spread throughout the world. At that time you will be able to die in peace. That figure's voice was unusually happy and excited. Almost instantly, it blasted into the core of Luo Qingtong's brain with irresistible force and forced its way towards her soul power. Boom, boom, boom. The spirit defense in Luo Qingtong's mind shattered layer by layer. The spirit power of a Saint King was extremely powerful. The power would slowly disappear with the loss of 1,000 years, but the spirit power would not. Chapter 1489. Now that his soul power had surged out, it was impossible for him to defeat a mere martial ancestor realm young girl. Even a Saint King realm elite might not be able to resist his soul attack. He would still be able to take over her body and be reborn. Haha. The Saint King's soul laughed loudly and his laughter became more and more arrogant. However, just as he was about to break through the last barrier in Luo Qingtong's mind and enter the depths of her brain to completely devour her soul, the young girl's voice slowly rang out. Is that so? Thank you for helping me increase my strength. However, I'll do it myself to reach the peak and ascend to the heavens. There's no need to trouble you. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, the Saint King's soul was instantly shocked. What? How can you still speak? Under his soul attack, the other party could barely protect herself. How could she speak so casually? Was she not afraid? He was about to break through her defense and devour her soul. She was not anxious at all. As the Saint King's soul thought about this, his brain instantly froze. However, he soon understood why Luo Qingtong was acting like this. Boom. As soon as Luo Qingtong finished speaking, she suddenly flipped her wrist and a ball of light flashing with white light appeared in her hand. The core of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. As soon as the core of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood appeared, streams of soul guiding power were suddenly emitted from Luo Qingtong's hand. As soon as the Saint King's soul broke through Luo Qingtong's last soul defense, it was instantly pulled back by the soul guiding power. In an instant, it was far away from the core of Luo Qingtong's brain. What? The Saint King's soul's face was filled with indescribable shock. 1,000-year soul guiding wood. He could feel the streams of power pulling him back. His voice was so sharp that it almost broke through the sky. The 1,000-year soul guiding wood was capable of drawing in the power of souls, either devouring or transforming them. It was the nemesis of Yin's souls. Fortunately, it was the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. If it was a 1,000-year soul guiding tree, this Sage King's soul would have been immediately bound by its suction force and become its guardian spirit. The power of the tree heart and the power of the saint's soul were barely able to resist it. Damn it! How could this young girl in the martial grandmaster realm have the heart of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood? The Saint King's soul was indescribably shocked. However, he did not know that Luo Qingtong would have already drawn out the life and death yin-yang sword, transformed it into the power of the death blade, and killed him if she did not want to draw him into her body. To Luo Qingtong, the power of this Saint King's soul was no threat to her. He wasn't even as much of a threat to her as the Hua clan's patriarch, who was at the Saint realm. However, at the mention of the Hua clan's patriarch, a loud bang rang out from the bronze door outside. The commotion outside was getting louder and louder, closer and closer. It was obvious that the Hua clan's patriarch was breaking through the obstruction of those ferocious beast statues and charging over. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Under the horrified gaze of the Saint King's soul, she suddenly clenched her fist. Heart of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding would absorb. Chapter 1490. In an instant, the soul energy of the Sage King's soul was absorbed by the 1,000-year soul guiding wood like flowing water. No. The Sage King's soul's expression was extremely horrified. His eyes were filled with extreme shock as he struggled with all his might, trying to break free from the suction of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. He no longer cared about dealing with Luo Qingtong's soul energy. The latter had the 1,000-year soul guiding wood in her hands and could completely absorb his soul energy for her own use. As for the 1,000-year soul guiding wood, the more his soul energy was absorbed, the stronger the suction and pulling force would be. He would be completely turned into fertilizer and a source of energy by the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. The Sage King's soul thought as he frantically struggled. With his strength, as long as he didn't think of entering Luo Qingtong's body and desperately tried to leave, he still had a chance of success. After all, his soul energy was vigorous and the 1,000-year soul guiding wood could only absorb a portion of it. As long as he was willing to cut his losses and give up that portion of soul energy in Luo Qingtong's body, he could still escape. He would only lose a portion of his strength. However, what was this strength compared to his own life? The Sage King's soul didn't expect that his plan would fail. The martial ancestor realm girl that he chose actually had a treasure like the 1,000-year soul guiding wood, which was the nemesis of Yin souls. However, it didn't matter. When he left this body and broke free from the suction of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood, he would definitely make her pay the price. She dared to absorb his soul energy and cause damage to his soul body. He wanted to suck the other party's flesh and soul dry. He wanted the other party to suffer a fate worse than death in his devouring and biting. The Sage King's soul fiercely gritted his teeth and desperately withdrew from Luo Qingtong's mind. Even the portion of soul energy absorbed by the 1,000-year soul guiding wood wasn't enough. His figure was like a wisp of green smoke as he withdrew from Luo Qingtong's body. He was about to completely withdraw from the girl's body. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's lazy voice rang out. "Lord Sage King, what's the hurry? Since you're here, why don't you be a guest before you leave? If you leave, what about my strength? Didn't you say you were going to give me all your strength, cultivation and comprehension of your cultivation?" Luo Qingtong smiled. Wanton and insolent. The young girl's beauty was like a poppy flower at this moment, gorgeous and full of threat. It was also like the Tama of the 3 lifetimes, blooming on the other side of the shore. It was absolutely beautiful yet filled with the aura of death. The first was the blooming of flowers, the second was the death of the body. Without the disguise of being ordinary, Luo Qingtong's black clothes and long hair, the young man's evil and charm, was incisively and vividly displayed. "Didn't you want to pass it on to me? I'll take your strength and soul." As Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, the girl's slender and fair finger pointed in the air. With a swoosh, streaks of qi meandered in her hand like a painting, dancing like snakes. In an instant, it formed an inscription pattern in Luo Qingtong's hand. In the next second, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and clapped. With a bang, the inscription pattern instantly entered her body. Buzz. As the inscription pattern entered her body. Chapter 1491. It was as if it had been fixed in place by something. The next second, shwa shwa shwa. Rays of white light emitted from Luo Qingtong's body. The inscription pattern rapidly rotated within Luo Qingtong's body. Rays of white light emitted from it, forming a giant cage that completely covered the Saint King's soul and Luo Qingtong's body. The Saint King's soul looked at Luo Qingtong with horror. Luo Qingtong's previous methods and abilities had not been able to cause him to be so horrified. It was as if his entire heart had been set off by an incomparably massive storm. He looked at the inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong had drawn up with disbelief. This is an inscription pattern technique. You are an inscription master. The Saint King's soul was aghast to the extreme. He was not someone from the Sky Spill continent. Naturally, he would not be as ignorant as the people of the Sky Spill continent. Inscription master. This was an inscription master. Moreover, the inscription pattern that she had used was clearly something that only a high-level inscription master could use. Heavens, in such a remote continent like the Sky Spill continent, there was actually someone like an inscription master. Moreover, an inscription master that could use a high-level inscription pattern technique. Just how unbelievable was this? It had to be known that within the Star Alliance, there were only a few high-level inscription masters. Those were all lofty and aloof characters that looked down on everything. Their status was almost the same as the Alliance Master. Even those middle-level inscription masters were people that all the major influences and masters of the continents wanted to curry favor with. This was because the status of an inscription master was simply too precious and too rare. It was not something that could be cultivated just because one wanted to. All the major influences treated them with extreme caution. Now, in the Sky Spill continent there was actually an inscription master, and a high-level inscription master. The Saint King's soul's eyes bulged as he looked at Luo Qingtong. If this news were to spread out, it would cause the people of the Outer Realms to go crazy. And how did such an inscription master grow up in such a low-level continent? There shouldn't be any resources here that she could use to advance her cultivation. The Holy King's soul looked at Luo Qingtong and was about to go crazy. If it wasn't for the fact that the power of the inscription pattern was genuine, he would have suspected that he had used too much of his soul power and was hallucinating. He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock, but the girl had already formed a seal with her hands and suddenly flipped them over. Withdraw. Suppress. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, the holy monarch soul that had floated out of Luo Qingtong's body was immediately pulled back by the soul-suppressing power emitted by the inscription pattern. The restraints from all sides firmly suppressed him within Luo Qingtong's body. His power continued to flow into Luo Qingtong's body. At the same time, the soul power was being absorbed by the heart of the 1,000-year-old ghost wood in Luo Qingtong's hand. I already said, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. Her eyes flashed with a cold blood-red light. Since you've come, don't think of leaving. You want to steal my body? Don't you know that you can't steal my evil eye's things? Not to mention my body. So what if you're a Saint King powerhouse? If you were a real entity, she would have some scruples and avoid you. Chapter 1492. No. The Holy King's soul was once again pulled back into Luo Qingtong's body. Only now did he know what it meant by, "It's easy to invite a god but hard to send it away" meant. It was almost impossible for him to leave Luo Qingtong's body now. The inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong had drawn was the soul calming diagram. If she had used it at the beginning with the strength of the Holy King's soul, he would have been able to break free immediately. But now, a portion of his strength had been absorbed by the 1,000-year soul guiding Wood's tree core. He was powerless to break free from the soul calming diagram's restraint. He screamed sharply as he was pulled back into Luo Qingtong's body by Luo Qingtong. At the same time, the power sealed in his corpse continuously flowed into Luo Qingtong's body, cleansing the girl's body and raising her level. What the Holy King's soul had said before was right. He had indeed prepared to pass on his skills to Luo Qingtong. He wanted to pass on all of his strength to her. After all, This was the body that he had chosen, wasn't it? After passing on his skills, the one who possessed all of this strength would be himself. However, he did not expect that Luo Qingtong was not the soft persimmon that he had thought she was, but a bloodthirsty and savage overlord. He had passed on his skills to her and wanted to seize her body, but he had been devoured by her instead. The strength in Luo Qingtong's body continued to soar. Low-level martial ancestor realm, middle-level martial ancestor realm, high-level martial ancestor realm, peak martial ancestor realm. With a bang, the aura in Luo Qingtong's body broke through the barrier of the martial ancestor realm and entered the martial spirit realm. At the same time, the 1,000-year soul-guiding woods tree core in her hand was also constantly absorbing the soul power of the Holy King's soul. The pure white color inside slowly turned black. It was the power transformed by the soul power of the Holy King's soul. The soul power of the Holy King's soul became weaker and weaker, and it was increasingly unable to break free from the soul calming diagram's restraint. Within Luo Qingtong's body, he screamed crazily as he scurried about, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break out of the cage formed by the soul calming diagram. Seeing that the soul power in his body was draining faster and faster, if this continued, he would completely become fertilizer for the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood in Luo Qingtong's hands. At that time, possession and rebirth would be nothing more than a joke. With that thought in mind, the Holy King's soul could no longer care about anything else. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Explode!" Myriad phantoms rise. Following his loud shout, the crowd was stunned. In that instant, Luo Qingtong felt a sense of foreboding. Her figure abruptly leaped backwards, her sleeves fluttering in the wind like a butterfly. The moment she leaped into the air, the purple gold coffin in front of her suddenly exploded. The Saint King's corpse exploded into dust in that instant. The power in his body overflowed and entered the fragments of the purple gold coffin. In that instant, countless phantoms suddenly rose from the fragments of the purple gold coffin. Baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, they attacked Luo Qingtong with a sharp howl. It turned out that the purple gold coffin contained the power of countless souls. Now that they had obtained the power of the Holy King's corpse, they turned into phantoms and attacked Luo Qingtong sharply. When the Holy King's soul saw those phantoms rushing out, his heart ached. These phantoms were a great help that he was prepared to use when he was reborn in the future. Chapter 1493. Damn it! Once he broke free from this soul-suppressing cage, he would definitely eat her flesh and blood alive. Devour her soul. The Holy King's soul was filled with hostility. He ordered those ghost shadows to charge crazily at Luo Qingtong. He wanted to use these ghost shadows to wear down the power of the soul-suppressing diagram in Luo Qingtong's body. Once the power of the soul-suppressing diagram was exhausted, the suction force of the 1,000-year-old soul-guiding would be greatly reduced. Then he would be able to escape from Luo Qingtong's body in one fell swoop. At that time he would eat her alive. Those ghost shadows shrieked as they attacked. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at herself. What a pity, just a little bit more. She lowered her head and looked at the aura that was spreading out from her body. Peak of the martial spirit realm. If the Holy King's soul had taken a little longer to explode the purple gold coffin, she would have been able to break through to the sage realm. Such an opportunity was once in a lifetime. After all, not every expert above the sage realm could pass on their cultivation to others like this. Not to mention helping others break through to the sage realm. That was an ability that only experts who had completely fused all their sage realm insights could have. And after passing on their cultivation, the other party would immediately die. Basically, if it wasn't a close relative who was facing the danger of death, no one would do such a thing. Luo Qingtong was because this Holy King expert wanted to possess her body and be reborn. That was why he had passed all his insights and strength into her body. There might not be a next time for such an opportunity. Forget it, the peak of the martial spirit realm is not bad. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. The strength of the Holy King realm was incomparably powerful. When it entered her body, it forcefully raised her strength to the peak of the martial spirit realm. If that was all, it wouldn't be strange. There were many ways to forcefully raise one's strength, but the drawbacks of this method were very obvious. That was, the foundation of one's strength was not stable. It was like building a tall building. Although it was slow, it was sturdy and stable. The higher it was built, the faster it would be built. If you use sand to build a house, it would seem that it was built quickly. In a short while it would become a skyscraper. But with a gentle gust of wind and rain your building might collapse. Such an increase in strength was like a castle in the air, impressive but useless. And the higher one went, the easier it was to collapse. However, the power that Luo Qingtong obtained from the Saint King expert was different. This was because she had obtained all of the Saint King's comprehension of power along with the power. There were no drawbacks at all when one's realm and strength rose together. Her strength at the peak of the martial spirit realm was extremely stable. Luo Qingtong's lips curled higher and higher as she thought about it. This trip to the Sage King's tomb was really worth it. The strength of the peak of the martial spirit realm was enough for her to return to the academy and participate in the grand event. Screech. While Luo Qingtong was lost in thought, the howling ghostly figures had already arrived before her. They opened their bloody mouths and bit down viciously on Luo Qingtong's body. They wanted to use their ghostly bodies to break the shackles of the soul calming diagram in Luo Qingtong's body and release the power of the Saint King's soul. Humph! Seeing those ghostly shadows rushing over with their bloody mouths wide open, they were like a swarm of locusts, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they flew towards him. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. With a flip of her hand she was about to summon the life and death duality sword. Chapter 1494. Her eyebrows twitched. This is... Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed when she sensed the movement. She seemed to have thought of something. Her lips curled up as she flipped her wrist and withdrew the power of the life and death yin-yang sword that she was about to summon. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and calmly watched the ghostly shadows whizzing toward her. Her expression was neither hurried nor slow. What's going on? Why is she suddenly not in a hurry? The Holy King's soul was startled when he saw this scene. However, he didn't think too much about it. It was naturally best if she didn't resist. As long as he could break the soul-calming diagram that was sealed in his body, he would kill her. At that time, it would be useless even if she had thousands of tricks up her sleeve. Absolute power represented absolute suppression. He would rather give up the chance to possess her body and torture her to death. As the Holy King's soul thought this, the face that he conjured was filled with a cold and murderous expression. Little Pig was also stunned when he saw Luo Qingtong's actions. What the hell is this woman doing? Why didn't she summon the life and death yin-yang sword? The soul-calming diagram was suppressing the Holy King's soul and the thousand-year soul guiding tree's heart was absorbing its power. She couldn't free herself to deal with these ghostly shadows. If they broke the seal of the soul-calming diagram and let the Holy King's soul escape, it would be troublesome. At that time, without the restraint of the Holy King's soul in Luo Qingtong's body, Luo Qingtong's current strength would be no match for the Holy King's soul. Little Pig was anxious and wanted to ask Luo Qingtong what was going on. He didn't believe that the girl was being reckless. He had followed Luo Qingtong for so long. The latter was never the kind of person who was blindly arrogant because of her strength. But what was going on with her now? If she didn't use the power of the life and death yin-yang sword, what other trump cards did Luo Qingtong have to deal with these ghostly shadows? After all, they had obtained the remaining power of the Sage King's corpse. Other than the power of the death blade transformed from the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's body, what else could deal with them? While Little Pig was still puzzled, a ghostly figure that was the first to arrive in front of Luo Qingtong had already viciously bit down on her waist. Following its sharp whistle, countless ghosts followed behind it, biting at Luo Qingtong's body. Seeing that Luo Qingtong's figure was about to be buried by this dense mass of ghosts. Boom, boom, boom. There was a surge of energy between her brows. In an instant, countless rays of white light appeared from the void behind Luo Qingtong and surrounded the ghostly figures that were charging towards her. What? The eyes of the Holy King's soul instantly widened at the sight of this. What is this? He looked at the rays of white light that extended from the void behind Luo Qingtong. They were actually long tails that danced wildly behind Luo Qingtong. Waves of soul-sucking power were emitted from the tails. All of the ghostly figures that were entangled by the white light were all turned into flickering shadows amidst a series of miserable screams. Their strength was completely absorbed by the long tails of white light. Chapter 1495. This is... The Holy King's soul looked at this scene in shock. White fur like snow, sharp golden eyes, and a feeling of nobility and power overflowing from its entire body. Soul-devouring beast. And it was the highest level of them all. Could even suppress and seal the divine soul of a top god beast. Legends said that when this kind of soul-devouring beast matured to the peak, it could suppress the souls of all beasts. Among the soul-devouring beasts, it was an extremely rare breed. Only a powerhouse with strength that could suppress the heavens could obtain it. This soul-devouring beast was obviously still in its infancy. But even so, it shouldn't be something that a little martial ancestor realm girl could obtain. After Luo Qingtong displayed the high-level inscription technique, the Holy King's soul went crazy again. What was the other party's background and identity? Why did he have such a powerful inscription technique and also such a heaven-defying god beast? These two things, no matter which one was taken out, were enough to shock those outside of the Sky Spill continent. Could it be that the other party was a proud son of heaven from a great power that had concealed his identity and came here to gain experience? Or was he from a super great power? While the Holy King's soul was going crazy, the snowball behind Luo Qingtong had already swallowed and absorbed all the attacking ghost shadows. It was originally in the transformation period of its growth period. Because it didn't have enough strength, it couldn't awaken. Now the soul power of these ghost shadows had provided it with the power to transform and awaken. Subconsciously, its body that Luo Qingtong had placed in the 9-layer exquisite pagoda began to move restlessly. It was because it felt Snowball's restlessness that Luo Qingtong gave up on using the life and death yin-yang sword and allowed the ghost shadows to rush over. Now, these ghost shadows that had absorbed the power of the Holy King's body had all become food in Snowball's stomach, the source of its transformation. After swallowing these ghost shadows, Snowball's body seemed to be covered in a layer of pale golden light. As this light became brighter and brighter, something seemed to be trying its best to escape from its tailbone. In the next second, Snowball let out a sharp and high-pitched cry. With a swish, a long tail suddenly shot out from its tailbone and waved in the air with another substantial tail. Streaks of white light appeared one after another. Transformation growth period. The power of two tails. Looking at the snowball that appeared behind Luo Qingtong, Little Pig muttered in his heart, "It's Snowball. No wonder that woman didn't use the life and death yin-yang sword." Soul-devouring beasts were the mortal enemies of the world's soul. Not to mention that Little White was not an ordinary soul-devouring beast. Even he was suppressed by its clan. Not to mention the other souls. Those ghostly shadows in front of it were simply not enough to look at. However, the Saint King's soul seemed to have recognized Whitey's true identity. Little Pig's eyes flashed with an extremely cold and murderous glint. His identity could not be exposed for the time being. This Holy King's soul absolutely could not be left behind. Otherwise, Little White would be able to see through his identity. While Little Pig was filled with killing intent, Snowball had finished its transformation. The light around its body receded and it suddenly became half the height of a human. It appeared in front of Luo Qingtong and stared covetously at the Holy King's soul sealed within the girl's body. "No. Don't kill me. Let me tell you a secret." Chapter 1496. The Sage King's soul was imprisoned in Luo Qingtong's body and had nowhere else to go. His soul force was constantly being absorbed by the 1,000-year soul guiding wood in Luo Qingtong's hand. Those ghostly shadows had all been swallowed up by the snowball. Under such circumstances he couldn't escape from the soul calming diagram seal in Luo Qingtong's body. He could only be completely sucked dry by the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. He had no choice but to give in. Secret. Luo Qingtong's heart stirred slightly. She inexplicably remembered the purpose of the people from the Celestial Palace coming to the Sage King's tomb. The secret of the land of the fallen immortals? She raised her eyebrows and looked at the Sage King's soul. "Yes, you know?" The Sage King's soul was slightly startled. Then he became even more confident. "Since you know, then you should also know how great the benefits of obtaining that thing are. The reason why the land of the fallen immortals became the land of the fallen immortals is because of that thing. If it weren't for the people who obtained the news of that thing and deliberately hid it, this small sky spill continent would have already been flattened by the foreign powerhouses. The reason why it's so peaceful now is because those people from back then are almost all dead. No one knows of the existence of that thing anymore. And I know where that thing is, and I have drawn a map." The Sage King's soul looked at Luo Qingtong with burning eyes and said, "If you let me go, I will tell you the location of that map. You should know that that thing is something that even the Star Alliance's leader wants. Now that no one knows of its existence, you can get it. And I can swear allegiance to you. You won't have to worry about me betraying or deceiving you. How about it?" The Sage King's soul's eyes flickered slightly and then he looked at Luo Qingtong. The latter's expression was indifferent. "Since you're saying this, I don't have anything to refuse." The other party's offer was extremely generous, as if he was willing to give up everything in order to survive, even swearing allegiance. How could Luo Qingtong refuse? They could obtain a treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals and the loyalty of a Saint King realm soul body. No matter how one looked at it, this was a good deal. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. "Good. So that means you've agreed?" The Saint King's soul was overjoyed. A light flashed in his eyes and then he hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong, "Then I'll immediately swear allegiance to you. Let me go and I'll take you to get that map." Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. "Swear it." When the Holy King's soul heard this, he hurriedly swore to the heavens, "I am willing to pledge my loyalty to the young lady in front of me. I will never betray her. If I betray her, I will be destroyed by the heavens and my soul will be destroyed." As he spoke, he looked at Luo Qingtong and urged, "Mistress, it's done. Let me go. I'll take you to get that map." He couldn't wait to get it. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She narrowed her eyes, raised her hand, and released the seal of the soul calming diagram in her body. I'm finally out." The Sage King's soul rushed out of Luo Qingtong's body, and then transformed into a figure in the air, laughing loudly. Let's go." Luo Qingtong said indifferently. Chapter 1497. The Holy King's soul turned to look at Luo Qingtong. The smile on his face instantly turned cold. "Leave? Hehehe." His expression was ferocious. "Where are you going?" His laughter was indescribably arrogant and cold. "Do you think that I'm really loyal to you just because I swore an oath to you? Idiot. Ha ha ha." He looked up to the sky and laughed. "The heavenly Tao here can't sense the oath at all. The oaths I swore just now are invalid. So are you ready to die now?" The Holy King's soul said as he gave Luo Qingtong a sinister smile full of murderous intent. After breaking free from the shackles in Luo Qingtong's body, the 1,000-year soul guiding wood in Luo Qingtong's hands was useless to him. As for the soul-devouring beast, it was indeed the nemesis of souls. But it had just entered the growth stage and was temporarily unable to stop him. As long as he sacrificed a little power, he would be able to kill the girl in front of him. He was dead for sure. The Holy King's soul laughed wildly. Luo Qingtong suddenly frowned and looked at him with a vexed expression. "So, the secret about the land of the deceased immortals that you said just now was also false? You don't have the map at all." Luo Qingtong looked at the Holy King's soul angrily. Wrong. That's true." The Holy King's soul looked at Luo Qingtong proudly. "I do have that map." He was very happy to enjoy Luo Qingtong's angry and regretful expression. He immediately said proudly and arrogantly, "That map is in the secret chamber of the main hall at the entrance of the Holy King's tomb. But you won't have the chance to get it." He laughed loudly. "Is that so?" Luo Qingtong's voice sounded at this time. The smile on her lips was faint, and the expression on her face became calm and leisurely. It was as if the annoyance and anger from before were just an illusion. "Thank you for telling me." Luo Qingtong raised her head and looked at the Holy King's soul, whose laughter had abruptly stopped. "In order to express my gratitude, I will personally send you on your way." As she spoke, she put away the heart of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood. It was almost full. There was simply too much soul force at the Saint King realm, so the 1,000-year soul guiding tree heart simply couldn't absorb it all. Even if this Saint King's soul did not allow Luo Qingtong to release him, Luo Qingtong would release his seal and use the life and death yin-yang sword to kill him. Who would have thought that the other party would reveal the secret of the fallen immortal land? Luo Qingtong originally thought that if the other party was really loyal to her, she would let him go. She didn't expect that the other party would still be scheming against her even at the brink of death. Since that was the case, then don't blame her for being ruthless. If it weren't for finding out the location of the map, She would have already killed the other party the moment he was arrogant. Are you ready to die? Luo Qingtong also returned this sentence to the Holy King's soul. She raised her hand and summoned the life and death yin-yang sword in her body. The power of the death blade appeared. In an instant the black light almost cut through the sky. The Holy King's soul looked at the death blade in Luo Qingtong's hand in horror, and his whole body instinctively trembled in fear. The life and death yin-yang sword, the light of the death blade, the power of death. Chapter 1498. The other party actually had such a supreme divine artifact in her hands. The heart of the Holy King's soul instantly turned cold from head to toe. The heart of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood, a growing soul-devouring beast. He still had a trace of confidence to fight against the other party. But this was a black longsword. Just by looking at it he already felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. That was an innate fear, the fear of a natural enemy. There was no way to resist at all. No. This Holy King's soul could kill any powerhouse below the Saint Realm with a raise of his hand. At this moment, in front of Luo Qingtong's life and death dual swords, he turned around desperately and wanted to escape. There was no longer the slightest bit of pride and arrogance from before. He screamed and tried to escape. However, the moment he turned around, Luo Qingtong had already waved the death blade in her hand. In an instant, a sharp light swept through the sky and shattered heaven and earth. Ah! The Holy King's soul screamed sharply. In an instant, under the attack of the death blade, it was shattered into ashes. His figure twisted and disappeared. Countless forces turned into the power of the soul and dissipated. Bang! Just as the Holy King's soul dissipated, the bronze door was also suddenly knocked open at this moment. Yi Jiao! I want you to die. Following a fierce roar that shook the sky, the Hua family head appeared in front of Luo Qingtong in a sorry state. His clothes were almost torn into shreds from top to bottom and hung messily on his body. His hair was disheveled as if he had just run out of a beggar's nest. His entire body was covered in wounds. The Hua family head was full of hostility. He looked at Luo Qingtong, who was standing in the middle of the room in front of him. Without even looking at the situation around him, he directly roared and pounced towards Luo Qingtong. Bang! Luo Qingtong waved the life and death dual swords in her hand. She had just swung her sword to kill the Holy King's soul. For the time being she did not have time to change her move. She directly followed the tail of the move and directly raised her hand. Swoosh! A black sharp blade flew out from the death blade in her hand and swept towards the Hua family patriarch in front of her. Bang! The Hua clan head raised his palm and their auras collided. In an instant his attack was shattered by the power of the black death blade. What? The Hua family head looked at this scene in shock. He looked at his palm in disbelief, then looked at Luo Qingtong in front of him. Even if he had only used half of his strength, his opponent shouldn't have been able to block it so easily. After all, the other party just now. You've reached the peak of martial spirit. The head of the Hua clan was just thinking that Luo Qingtong was only a Wu zone when he suddenly realized that there was something wrong with the young man's aura. His opponent was already in the martial spirit realm. Moreover, his strength and aura were extremely dense and solid. It was as if in this short period of time, the young man had already completed the comprehension of the martial ancestor realm to the martial spirit realm. Furthermore, he had accumulated enough strength and without any hindrance, he had advanced. How was this possible? Patriarch Hua's expression was extremely ugly. His eyes bulged and he didn't dare to believe his eyes at all. He raised his hand and pointed at Luo Qingtong. Then he glanced around and saw the furnishings of the room clearly. The purple gold giant coffin had already disappeared under the explosion of the Holy King's soul. However, the gorgeous decorations around were still there. The Hua family head only took a glance and knew that this place was extraordinary. Chapter 1499. Ha ha ha. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a ferocious expression. No wonder your strength soared so quickly. It turns out that you encountered the opportunity in the Saint King's tomb. But now your opportunity belongs to me. As he spoke, his eyes greedily looked at the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand. He didn't pay close attention before. Now he realized that the long sword in Luo Qingtong's hand was really a rare treasure. The sword that Luo Qingtong wielded just now was close to the power of the Saint Realm. Obviously it was this long sword's credit. Good, good, good. Ha ha ha. Patriarch Hua laughed loudly. Finally, I didn't chase after you for so long in vain. Yijiao, your life and this opportunity you obtained, give it all to me. The strength that was absorbed by Luo Qingtong was one thing. But this long sword, he wanted it. Ha. Luo Qingtong chuckled as she looked at the greedy Patriarch Hua opposite her. You want what's mine? Wasn't the previous lesson enough? Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She no longer hid her lazy and evil aura. She raised her eyebrows slightly and looked coldly at Patriarch Hua opposite her. I wonder how many people from your Hua family will be able to return alive this time? You. Patriarch Hua instantly exploded when he heard Luo Qingtong's words. Everyone from the Hua family was left in the passage that Luo Qingtong chose for them. Even if they didn't know what was in the passage, judging from the Ouyang family's desperate escape, the passage was extremely dangerous. Only a few people from the Hua family would be able to come out alive. Luo Qingtong's words instantly angered Patriarch Hua. He looked at Luo Qingtong with bloodshot eyes. Bastard. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to skin you alive. I'm going to sacrifice the souls of our Hua family's people who died in vain. Patriarch Hua thought so. In an instant, like a vulture, he flew towards Luo Qingtong. So what if she had reached the peak of the martial spirit realm? Before reaching the saint realm, everything was an ant. What's more, he was in a hurry just now and didn't even use half of his strength. This time he would definitely not give her any chance to take advantage of him. With that thought in mind, the Hua family's patriarch suddenly released all of his aura. As his aura shot out, the surrounding decorations and broken stones all flew up, guided by his aura, and flew towards the bronze door that he had knocked open. He blocked the wide-open door. This time I'll see where you're going. In this room there was only one exit, the bronze door. The Hua family head's expression was ferocious, and his sleeves shook violently. In an instant, countless energy qis Qingtong. In the air, the spirit energy surged, the wind blew and the clouds surged. All of them attacked Luo Qingtong. Yijiao, I want you dead. Bang, bang, bang. While Patriarch Hua was attacking Luo Qingtong in another passage, Feng Wan and the others had almost reached the end of the passage. A large hall appeared in front of everyone. In the corner of the hall, a teleportation array was emitting a milky white light and flashing slightly. Seeing this scene, everyone from the Ouyang family had ugly expressions. Especially Patriarch Ouyang and the others. The people of the Hua family had already died in the trap. Chapter 1500. Those people were all selected by the Ouyang family head and brought to the Saint King's tomb to let them gain experience, show off their skills and obtain some opportunities. They thought that with the map, the protection of these experts and the Saint Dr. Feng Wan, there should be no problem for those disciples to gain experience. But they didn't expect to fall into Luo Qingtong's trap as soon as they entered. Don't even talk about training, these elite disciples were simply thrown to their deaths by them. That was fine, but they didn't get anything along the way. So many people died and even they were in a sorry state, but they reached the end as soon as they came out. The Ouyang family head didn't go crazy on the spot, and it was already very rational. Saint Doctor, everything was done according to your instructions. What's the situation now? Don't you think you should explain to our Ouyang family? The Ouyang family head was already trying his best to suppress his anger. If it wasn't for Feng Wan suddenly showing strength that was not weaker than them, he would have taken action long ago. Feng Wan had caused them too much trouble. The plan that he kept on talking about. In the end, they were schemed against by Yijiao as soon as they entered the Saint King's tomb. Now that they didn't get anything, where did the other party's plan come from? If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have listened to the other party. When they entered the Saint King's tomb, he should have joined forces with the Hua family and killed Yijiao. This way he wouldn't have fallen into her trap. The Ouyang family head was so angry that his face turned black. Feng Wan's expression was also very ugly. That wisp of green smoke had already returned to her body. Every time she came out she would suffer a great loss. This time was no exception. Before he left, he gave her a good scolding. In addition to this trip to the Saint King's tomb, although she used the Saint King's tomb map to form a plan with the Ouyang family, she was not completely uninterested in the Saint King's tomb. On the contrary, she believed in her own ability. She believed that even if the Ouyang family came together, they would still be able to get the best treasure in the Saint King's tomb. That was why he had generously handed over the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb to the Ouyang clan in exchange for their trust and alliance to achieve his goal. Who would have thought that her confidence would be repeatedly slapped in the face by Luo Qingtong? And now he had almost been schemed against by the other party and had been crushed into nothingness. If it wasn't for that wisp of green smoke, she would have died in that wrong passageway. Thinking of this, Feng Yuan gnashed his teeth in anger. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Just you wait. This matter is not over yet. Feng Yuan roared angrily in his heart, but his face was unusually cold and gloomy. What's the hurry? She said coldly. They're just one step ahead of us. So what if they took all the treasures in the tomb? No matter how much they took, I will make them spit it all out. At that time, the compensation and benefits that the Ouyang clan deserves will not be lacking. Feng Yuan's eyes were hazy. Her original plan was to deal with Luo Qingtong during the exploration of the Saint King's tomb. After getting all the treasures that she deserved, she would start the plan under the shame and resentment of the other party, and let her die miserably and in despair. Although this plan was not used now, the ending had not changed. Chapter 1501. As for Yu Si Huang and family, none of them would be able to leave the Saint King's tomb. Feng Yuan's eyes were extremely gloomy. She instructed the people of the Ouyang clan, just do as I say. She spoke in a low voice as she explained her plan. At this moment in the room, Luo Qingtong looked at the Hua clan head's violent attack and her eyes turned cold. Bang! She waved an attack in her hand. In an instant, the black sword light swept straight and shattered countless surging spiritual energy vortexes. Boom boom boom. The two attacks collided. The black sword light blasted out by Luo Qingtong was shattered by the Hua clan head with a single hand. In the sky, countless spiritual qi of heaven and earth surged, colliding with each other in this huge room. Luo Qingtong's feet scraped the ground and she was blasted back by the collision of the two attacks. Egio. Don't think that you can compete with me just because your strength has increased to the peak of the martial spirit realm and you have the help of a treasure sword. The strength of the Saint Realm is beyond your imagination. The Saint Realm was beyond the Saint Realm and officially entered the Transcendent Realm. Compared to the Saint Realm, it was almost 2 realms higher. How could a mere peak of the martial spirit realm be compared to such a level of strength? The Hua clan head looked at Luo Qingtong with a sneer. It was already good that she could rely on that long sword to fight with him. However, with the strength in her body, how many times could she fight with him? Egio, you're dead this time. Watch me torture you to death to vent the hatred in my heart. The Hua clan head thought so and attacked again. As for Luo Qingtong, after exchanging blows with the head of the Hua family, she quickly felt that the power of the soul of the Holy King in her body was fusing rapidly with her body. If an example had to be used, it was equivalent to the power that Luo Qingtong had obtained before, but she only obtained the formula to solve the problem. Now, under the attack of the Hua clan head, Luo Qingtong's formula to solve the problem began to be used officially. Luo Qingtong's strength had increased too quickly. From the beginning of the martial ancestor realm, she rose to the peak of the martial spirit realm in an instant. Even if there was no lack of power and strength, it did not mean that she could perfectly use it in battle and display her true strength. And now, the Hua clan head was acting as a sparring partner, helping Luo Qingtong to temper her strength to reach the peak of the martial spirit realm and strengthen her foundation. Once the tempering was completed, the peak of the martial spirit realm's strength, the peak of the martial spirit realm in her body. Luo Qingtong's for a moment, first 2 for Luo, first to 2's to S's to God. Luo Qingtong Luo to himself's face first in an instant. Snowball, who had been growling at the side and was about to pounce on Patriarch Hua, leaped into the air and appeared in front of her. Snowball, who had entered the growth stage, no longer cried out like a cute cub. Instead, it had a bit of domineering and wild nature. This shout was extremely loud and clear. Luo Qingtong jumped when it jumped over and sat on its body. Let's go. After Snowball's transformation, it had the strength of the Saint Realm. Chapter 1502. Old dog, let's play slowly. Luo Qingtong looked at the Hua family head who was full of killing intent. She licked her lips with her fragrant tongue, overflowing with an evil aura, charming and alluring. At this moment, the disguise of her temperament was removed, revealing her elegance. Humph. The Hua family head looked at her and sneered. A mere peak martial spirit realm cultivator dared to boast shamelessly. Even experts who had surpassed the Saint realm had to be respectful in front of him, not daring to be arrogant. She was not even in the Saint realm, yet she dared to be arrogant in front of him? With this Saint realm demonic beast? What a joke. Since she wanted to play, he would naturally accompany her to play. He just didn't know if she could bear it. The Hua family head thought so and suddenly flicked his sleeves. With a swoosh, his whole body instantly flew up like a vulture spreading its wings and rushed towards Luo Qingtong. At the same time, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with a bloody light, and she also clamped Snowball's waist and abdomen. The latter roared and immediately carried her to meet the Hua family head. Boom boom boom. 2 people and 1 beast's figures crisscrossed in midair. Luo Qingtong activated her pupil technique, and the Hua family head's attack trajectory and body movements were all in her eyes. Although it was not enough for her to seize the opponent's flaws and attack to break through, Snowball under her body moved at will and could cooperate with her to avoid the Hua family head's attack and hit the strongest part of the body. The remaining weak points were enough for Luo Qingtong to deal with her current strength. The 2 people and 1 beast's figures flashed violently in this room. In the exit hall, after Feng Wan and the others arranged for a while, people from other families and forces began to arrive one after another. At the entrance of the Saint King's tomb, there were 12 passages, and each passage led to the exit hall. Among them there was only one passageway, which was the one that Luo Qingtong told Yu Huang and the others. It was the most important treasure location. Most of the treasures and resources in the Saint King's tomb were all in that passage. However, this did not mean that there was nothing in the other passageways. It was just that the things in them were not as many as the things in the passage. Not only that, but those tunnels were also much more dangerous than the correct tunnel. The most dangerous route was the one that Feng Wan and the others had taken. Furthermore, there was nothing in that passageway. If it wasn't for the green smoke, Feng Wan and the others as well as the Ouyang family head would have all died here. At this moment, some of the people from these families and forces were lucky enough to break through the other passages. They were helping each other to enter the exit hall. Just as they were about to go to the exit array, they were stopped by the people of the Ouyang family. Ouyang family head, what do you mean by this? The person who was stopped by the Ouyang family was taken aback as he looked at the people from the Ouyang family in front of him. The Ouyang clan's people wouldn't want to use force, right? Snatch their harvest? However, the Ouyang clan was the #1 clan, and they had the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb in their hands. Why would they need to rob them? Or could it be that the Ouyang family's people had eaten the meat, but were not even prepared to let them have a sip of the soup? With this thought in mind, the crowd instantly retreated with vigilance. Unconsciously, the people from these forces began to group up. Their strength was not as good as the Ouyang family. Chapter 1503. If they didn't band together, they would be tortured to death by the Ouyang clan in a matter of minutes. And some of the others also suffered heavy losses. A group of people gathered together. An injured patriarch of a large clan looked at the place where Patriarch Ouyang and the others were and said angrily, "Patriarch Ouyang, isn't your Ouyang clan a little too degrading by doing this? Both you and the Hua clan have the map and have reaped great rewards in this Saint King's tomb. Don't tell me you won't even let us have a little bit of soup? That's right. Your Ouyang clan's people are too greedy." A group of people from large and small clans echoed. "We have risked our lives to get a little bit of things, but Patriarch Ouyang, you can't even tolerate this. That's too much." Everyone glared at the Ouyang clan people. They still didn't know the purpose of Patriarch Ouyang and the others and only thought that the Ouyang clan was showing a hypocritical mask. Previously, they had always thought that the Ouyang clan people were really noble and had found a place like the Saint King's tomb and even shared it with them. Now it seemed that the other party knew that there were many copies of the Saint King's tomb map. Even if they didn't announce it, it couldn't be hidden if someone else got the other Saint King's tomb maps. That was why they were so kind. Now that they let them into the Saint King's tomb, they even wanted to take away their little harvest. Really shameless and greedy. Everyone glared at Patriarch Ouyang and the others. But they didn't know that when Patriarch Ouyang heard what they said, he almost had a brain hemorrhage. If their Ouyang clan really had a harvest, he wouldn't have done this. Did they really think that he wanted to cooperate with Feng Wan? Wasn't it because their Ouyang clan didn't get anything? They weren't willing to let others take advantage of them. Now they were being accused of being greedy and insatiable. It was really a big mistake. and they had no way to reason with them. After all, who would believe it? They and the Hua clan, two of the top clans in Wild City, were schemed against and didn't get anything. If they said it out loud, they would be thought to be lying. Shut up, all of you. The head of the Ouyang family was so angry that he fell backwards. He looked coldly at the people of the family forces in front of him and said coldly, "All of you stay here obediently. Before everyone arrives, no one is allowed to leave. Otherwise, die." The head of the Ouyang family was furious. He didn't have the face to tell her that he and the others had been tricked by Luo Qingtong and ended up with nothing. In any case, the young man family and the people of the southern region were all going to die. Their belongings would all belong to him and the others. It didn't matter if he said it or not. Let's just let these people think so. In any case, when they finally left the tomb, other than the dead, there would only be their people left. No matter how much these people talked, what did it matter? As the Ouyang family head thought of this, he felt much better in his heart. His eyes were like an eagle as he scanned the entrance of the main hall in front of him, waiting for Luo Qingtong and the others to appear. The other party was their biggest target. These people were of no importance at all. The Ouyang family head's voice was cold and full of killing intent. Everyone was stunned. Chapter 1504. With a flash of white light, Yu Si Huang and the others' figures appeared. Yu Si Huang's face was cold. On his originally devilishly handsome face, the enchanting charm had completely disappeared, leaving behind only an ice-cold murderous aura and callousness. He strode toward the exit of the hall. Family Hu and the Southern Mountain Range people followed closely behind him. Those Southern Mountain Range people, including Yu Xingqi, didn't dare to breathe loudly. Especially Yu Xingqi. She always took it as her duty to cheat her brother, and liked to insult Yu Si Huang the most. But this time, facing Yu Si Huang, who was obviously angry, she quickly hugged Dudu, who was in her arms, and quietly moved closer to Hu Yenyang and the others. Not for anything else, it was too dangerous to stay beside Yu Si Huang, who knows when she would be angered. Especially since she usually cheated. She liked to insult Yu Si Huang. It was better to stay far away from him. And Yu Si Huang didn't have the time and energy to pay attention to her. His gaze was cold as he looked at the exit hall. The Ouyang clan people were there, then the Hua clan people were there too. Yu Si Huang's heart was filled with anger and depression. Luo Qingtong had an accident in front of him. It was like a slap to his face. The Hua clan head was really good. Did he really think that his imperial sex power was in the southern mountain range and he couldn't do anything to them? If Luo Qingtong lost half a hair, he would make their western mountain range no longer have the Hua clan. Yu Si Huang strode into the main hall. His red robe fluttered in the wind. With just a sweep, he appeared in front of the people of the Ouyang family, blocking all the people from the other forces. Where are the Hua clan people? Yu Si Huang's pair of long and narrow phoenix eyes swept across everyone present, but he didn't see the Hua clan people. His face became even colder. That pair of peach blossom eyes that had always been charming and enchanting also surged with even more coldness. The Hua clan people? The Ouyang clan head and the others didn't know what happened after the Hua clan head left the passage. So when they heard Yu Si Huang ask about the Hua clan people, they were stunned. When they saw Yu Si Huang and the others appear, their hearts were filled with joy. They thought that the target they were waiting for had finally appeared. However, without waiting for them to attack, Yu Si Huang had already rushed in front of them. His expression was even colder and more severe than theirs. He even interrogated her about the whereabouts of the Hua family. They stared blankly for a moment, then glanced around and discovered that Luo Qingtong was not in Yu Si Huang's group. Thinking back to Yu Si Huang's question and the Hua family head who escaped from the passage, everyone from the Ouyang family immediately understood what happened. Haha. The head of the Ouyang family laughed out loud. I didn't expect this. Yijio was also tricked by his own design. Ha. He was in a good mood. Yijio had schemed against them, but what was the result? Didn't he end up in a situation where he didn't even know if he was dead or alive? Being targeted by Patriarch Hua, she was dead meat in the Saint King's tomb. Ha. The head of the Ouyang family laughed loudly. He looked at Yu Si Huang and the others, his face full of ridicule. Imperial sect head, I advise you not to look for the Hua clan people. They were trapped in the passage with us and now they are all dead. And all of this is because of Yijio. The head of the Ouyang family's face was gloomy. Chapter 1505. I'll take care of all of you. But now it seems like there's no need for that. I'm afraid she'll end up in a worse state in the hands of the Huo family head than in our hands. Huh. The Ouyang family head laughed out loud, then looked coldly at Yu Huang and the rest. As for all of you, don't even think about leaving this place. As he spoke, his face darkened. He looked at the people from the other families and forces and said, the Ouyang family has set a trap here today. Those who follow us will prosper and those who oppose us will perish. Other than family Hu and the people from the southern region, if you're willing to submit to us and swear to heaven and earth that you'll serve the Ouyang family in the future, then I'll let you go. Otherwise, all of you will die here. The Ouyang family head's face was cold. At this time, almost everyone in the Saint King's tomb had gathered here. The Ouyang family head and the rest did not care about the remaining people who were still in the passageway. Those who had not come out at this time were either not strong enough or were on their last breaths. Under such circumstances, even if those people came out, they would not be a threat to them. Once they had subdued those who came out, how could those who came out escape from their hands? Since they were going to do it, they had to be ruthless. They wanted the things in the Saint King's tomb. The Ouyang family wanted these people too. The Ouyang family head sneered, his head held high as he looked at the shocked people from the other families. What? The Ouyang family. The people from the other families and forces thought that the Ouyang family was just trying to take advantage of the situation and rob them of their gains. They did not expect the Ouyang family head to have the idea of subduing them along with their gains. These people who came to the Saint King's tomb were the high-ranking experts and mainstays of the various families and forces in the far west wilderness. Some of these forces were from Wildland City, while others were from other cities. Most of them were extremely powerful forces in their own cities. Once they submitted to the Ouyang family, it meant that their forces would be completely controlled by the Ouyang family. At that time, the entire Wild City and even the far west wilderness would be under the control of the Ouyang family. The Ouyang clan wanted to become the overlord of the far west desolate region. The people from the other families and forces were furious. Ouyang family head. Your Ouyang clan's ambition is too big. Be careful not to choke to death. That's right. Although our strength isn't as good as your Ouyang family's, you want us to submit to you and recognize you as our master? You're too naive. The Ouyang family's experts snorted coldly. That's right. Ouyang family head, your Ouyang family's people had better make way for us and let us leave. Otherwise, don't blame us for interfering in the grudge between you family Hu and the Imperial sect master. At that time, I'm afraid the ones who will die will be your Ouyang clan. The group of people from the various clans threatened. Since the Ouyang family head had already said so, the other family forces were no longer afraid of offending them. On the contrary, if they used this as a threat, the Ouyang clan would stop in time and let them go. To be honest, these people didn't want to fight with the Ouyang family. Chapter 1506. It was fine if the Ouyang family head was willing to take a step back, but if he was unwilling, they could only join forces with Yu Huang and the rest to attack the Ouyang family. However, the group of family forces felt that the Ouyang family head would not choose to do so. However, just as they were thinking this, they heard the Ouyang family head's loud laughter. Haha, you're all laughable. If I didn't have something to rely on, do you think I would say such a thing? Our family's strength is naturally not enough to do anything to you, but what if we had set up a trap in advance? The Ouyang family head looked at the group of family forces in front of him mockingly. He had already said that the Ouyang family had set up a trap here. Did these people think that just because the Ouyang clan's people had blocked them and surrounded them, it was already a trap? If that was the case, he would not have dared to face so many of them. Not to mention saying such arrogant words to make them submit. But now, the Ouyang family head sneered when he thought of the situation that he and the rest had learned from Feng Wan. Holy Doctor, let them see the trap that you've set up. Let them see what kind of confidence the Ouyang family has to dare to say such words to make them submit. Following the Ouyang family head's words, Feng Wan walked out of the Ouyang family's group with a cold and arrogant expression. Ever since she found out that Luo Qingtong was being hunted down by the Huo family head and most likely died without a burial place, she felt exceptionally comfortable in her heart. Evil Dr. Gui Tong, you deserve this day. It's a pity that you won't die in my hands. Luo Qingtong was being hunted down by the Huo family head. It was impossible for a martial ancestor to survive against a saint. Even if the other party was as cunning as a fox and had many tricks up his sleeve, where could she escape to in the Saint King's tomb? Therefore the other party was dead meat. Feng Yuan could not help but chuckle at the thought of this. She raised her eyes to look at Yu Huang and the rest in front of her, then fixed her gaze on Yu Huang. The man was evil and cold. Even though he was exuding a murderous aura, it could not hide his devilish charm. This kind of man also liked the evil Dr. Ghost Eyes and even chased after her everywhere to support her. As Feng Yuan thought about this, a trace of uncontrollable jealousy and resentment appeared in his eyes. Imperial Emperor Sect Leader, since you brought me good news, I'll give you a chance. Give up on Yijiu and stand on my side. Become my male slave and I will give you and the people of the southern mountain range a way out. What do you think? Feng Yuan's eyes were full of interest. If this man who liked evil Dr. Ghost Eyes ended up as a slave at his feet, kneeling and licking his boots, how would evil Dr. Ghost Eyes feel? If she knew about this in the underworld, she would probably be so angry that she would vomit blood. She was going to snatch everything that the other party had. No matter what method was used. Whether it was Yu Huang or Yi Xianxia, they were all like this. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye, I will use facts to tell you that you are inferior to me. Male slave? Yu Huang's long and narrow almond-shaped eyes swept across Feng Yuan. The disdain and coldness in his eyes could not be concealed even by the enchanting charm of his eyes. Chapter 1507. Yu Huang's eyes were cold. He had just carefully searched the hall with his divine sense and did not find any trace of the Hu clan. Damn it, were all the Hu clan members really dead? Wasn't this death a little too clean? Yu Huang originally wanted to catch a Hu clan member and use their imperial sect's unique bloodline search method to find the whereabouts of Luo Qingtong and the Hu clan head. His intuition told him that Luo Qingtong should not be in trouble so easily. However, the young girl's strength and cultivation were too weak compared to the Hu clan head. Even if she temporarily relied on the terrain and advantages of the Saint King's tomb, he was afraid that she would not be able to hold on for long. Thinking of this, Yu Huang was too lazy to entangle himself with Feng Yuan and the Ouyang clan head. He looked at Feng Yuan with an icy gaze, then turned around to look at the Ouyang family head and the others. He said in a deep voice, Ouyang family head, if I remember correctly, this young lady should be the future young mistress of your Ouyang family, right? You want me to be her male slave so obviously. Do you think that Ouyang Xiao's green hat is not big enough? Or is it that your Ouyang clan style is so good that you don't mind this kind of thing? But unfortunately, I don't have that kind of hobby. Especially, I think she's dirty. Yu Huang raised his hand and touched the red mole at the corner of his eye with a smile. His action was obviously extremely enchanting and charming, but when he did it, it was forcefully added with a bit of a chilling aura. The identity of the imperial sect head cannot be humiliated. The dignity of the king of the southern region cannot be blasphemed. Yu Huang's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent as he coldly looked at Feng Yuan. This woman really did not know what was good for her. Did she think that everyone was Luo Qingtong? That she could freely take liberties with him? Feng Yuan was angered by Yu Huang's words. His face was full of arrogance and interest, but it all turned into embarrassment. She was just about to open her mouth to shout when Yu Huang's next sentence sounded. By the way, in the future don't bring out such a bitch and embarrass yourself. Yu Huang's pair of bewitching eyes slightly drooped. The smile on his lips didn't change. However, the words that came out of his mouth became even more impolite. Otherwise, others will think that there are no men in the Ouyang family and that you can't satisfy her. Since the other party was so shameless, he would fulfill her wish. Shut up. Feng Yuan's face twisted. Yu Huang's words to her was a huge slap to her face. Bitch. Did he find her dirty? Every word was like a slap to Feng Yuan's face. Yu Huang. Don't think that you can sit back and relax just because you are the leader of the imperial sect and the king of the southern region. Since you insist on going with Yi Jiu and the others, then die with them. Feng Yuan was extremely angry. Her face was contorted. That face of hers was almost unbearable to look at. Everyone in the Ouyang family also had an ugly expression. Feng Yuan's actions really made them lose face. Although Feng Yuan wasn't Ouyang Xiao's real fiancé, she was still using this title. Ouyang family head also had a burst of blood rush to his head. He fiercely looked at Feng Yuan, then turned to Yu Si Huang and the others and angrily said, "Saint Doctor, there's no need to say so much to them. Since they are looking for death, then let's fulfill their wish. Do it." Following Ouyang family head's words, Feng Yuan instantly raised her hand with a sinister expression. Chapter 1508. Boom, boom, boom. A series of loud noises rang out, and in an instant the entire hall shook. Suddenly, snake-like figures sprang out from the abnormally sturdy green bricks and stones. They danced brazenly in the air. Those figures were extremely bloodthirsty and wild. Their blood-red bodies were extremely thick, almost thicker than the pillars at the exit of the hall that would take dozens of people to wrap their arms around. These blood-red demonic vines drilled out from the cracks in the walls of the hall and the pillars of the dome. Those thick and solid bodies stretched and bent over the walls, faintly revealing themselves from the broken walls. It was an abnormally terrifying sight. The entire exit hall was almost completely covered by these blood-red demonic vines. They were like giant snakes and dragons eyeing the people in the hall covetously. If that was all, it would be fine. What shocked everyone even more was that the aura of these blood-red demonic vines was extremely powerful and overbearing. Their roots were deeply rooted in this exit hall, and their aura was faintly the same as it. Not only that, but the aura in their bodies was also constantly rising. It gave everyone the feeling that they were absorbing the power in the Saint King's tomb to grow themselves. In fact, that was indeed the case. These blood-red giant vines were also called blood demonic vines. They were an extremely rare demonic plant. It was given to Feng Yuan by the wisp of green smoke. It was also the main purpose of the latter's visit to the far western wilderness this time. The blood demonic vines were fed and irrigated by blood and death aura. The more blood essence and aura a martial artist had when they died, the more powerful it would grow. The blood essence and aura would eventually fuse and form a blood-red flower in its body. Inside it contained the life essence and experience of many powerhouses. It was enough to help powerhouses below the Saint Realm break through to the Saint Realm. If a powerhouse above the Saint Realm obtained it, he could break through to the next realm in one fell swoop. That blood-red flower was also known as the flower of the Saint Realm, the flower of death. Feng Yuan came to the extreme west desolate region in order to nurture this blood-colored flower. She gave the map of the Saint King's tomb to the Ouyang family in order to use the prestige of the Ouyang family to attract people from many family forces to this Saint King's tomb for these blood-red demonic vines to absorb their blood essence and strength. These blood-colored demonic vines lived on fresh blood and death energy. Naturally, they were like fish in water in this Saint King's tomb, growing rapidly. Feng Yuan's previous plan was to let these blood-red demonic vines absorb the blood qi and death qi of many people who came to explore the Saint Monarch's tomb. After they grew, they would torture Luo Qingtong to death. Let the other party die an incomparably miserable death. However, plans could not keep up with changes. As soon as Luo Qingtong arrived, she tricked them into the wrong channel. They almost lost their lives there, not to mention killing Luo Qingtong. However, although the process of the plan had changed, the ending remained the same. Many people from the forces who died in the passage provided enough breath and nutrients for the growth of the blood-colored demonic vines. Feng Yuan had ordered the Ouyang clan's people to lay down a spirit array at the entrance of the hall to absorb all the death qi and blood qi. Now the spirit array was completely set up. She wanted none of the people present to escape. Boom boom boom. Those blood-colored demonic vines quickly shot up. Chapter 1509. In an instant, a series of blood-curdling screams accompanied by the sound of the blood-colored giant vines flying up into the sky. Those people were brought up into the sky by the blood-colored vines, and then they were suddenly torn into pieces. Blood and flesh splattered on the skin of the blood-colored vines, and were absorbed by the huge tubes that bulged like blue veins on the surface of the vines. The blue veins on the blood-colored giant vines wriggled and swallowed all the blood and flesh that splattered all over the sky, leaving nothing behind. This scene caused the faces of the people present to turn pale and their throats to tighten. They couldn't help but step back. Among the experts who were killed just now, there were quite a few experts who had surpassed the Saint Realm. However, they were killed in an instant. Before they died, they only let out a scream. How terrifying was this? At this time, the people of the various forces finally understood why the people of the Ouyang clan were so arrogant and why Feng Yuan was so unscrupulous. She dared to make Yu Chong Huang, the imperial sect master, the king of the southern territory, her male slave in front of everyone. The Ouyang clan obviously lost face, but they didn't do anything to the other party. But it turned out that this girl named Luan, who they didn't pay much attention to, was the one they really needed to pay attention to. It was the one who was truly dangerous in this scheme. The mastermind behind the Ouyang clan. As for Yu Huang and the others, they looked at the blood-colored demonic vines flying up one after another. Their faces were very serious. Especially Yu Huang, his strength was the strongest among them. Naturally, he could feel the aura of these blood-colored vines and how dangerous they were. This girl named Luan, was not simple. She was definitely not just the future wife of the Ouyang clan's young master. Who are you? Yu Huang's gaze was cold as he looked at Feng Luan. The latter had already stepped on the head of an incomparably thick blood-colored demonic vine and rose up into the sky along with the blood-colored demonic vine. Of course it's me. Feng Luan sneered. She naturally couldn't tell Yu Huang and the others about her identity at this time. Otherwise, the identity of the evil Dr. Gui Tong couldn't be hidden, right? If the people of the Ouyang clan suddenly changed sides because of the other party's identity, she would have to spend a lot of trouble. Although Feng Luan did not mind killing a few more people, after all, the moment the layout was completed, the existence of the Ouyang family was dispensable. However, she still had some things that she needed the Ouyang family to do, so she couldn't kill them all for the time being. Therefore, whether it was her identity or the identity of the evil Dr. Gui Tong, she had to hide it first. Otherwise, new problems would crop up. Yu Huang, I will give you one last chance. Do you want to submit to me or not? Crawl under my feet, become my male slave, and become an obedient dog under my feet? If you're willing, I can grant you a favor and spare you from death. This is your last chance. Think about it carefully. Standing on the blood-colored monster vine, Feng Luan's posture was indescribably aloof and proud. Her eyes were gloomy and ruthless, coldly looking at Yu Huang and the others. The latter sneered, then raised his head and said, I'm not interested in a bitch. Especially someone like you. Chapter 15:10. You. Feng Luan couldn't hold it in any longer. Her eyes were red and she was so angry that blood was about to drip out. Good. Feng Luan looked at Yu Huang as if she was dipped in poison. She then laughed coldly. Imperial sect master is indeed infatuated. Unfortunately, as she spoke, she compressed her voice into a line and sent it into Yu Huang's ears. Evil Dr. Gui Tong doesn't have you in his heart. Just wait to die for her. The anger in Feng Luan's heart had reached its peak. Yu Huang's determination reminded her of Yi Qianxian. That man who stood at the peak of supreme being in the black field could only see evil Dr. Gui Tong. Now Yu Huang was the same. But it didn't matter. After today, evil Dr. Gui Tong would no longer exist in this world. Only her, the heavenly doctor, would remain. Yi Qianxian would be hers sooner or later. As for Yu Huang, since he wasn't willing to betray evil Dr. Gui Tong and become her male slave, then he would die with these people from family who. As Feng Luan thought this, she instantly raised her hand and made a gesture. In an instant, those blood-colored vines that broke through the wall suddenly rushed out from the surrounding walls and pillars, rushing towards the people who were surrounded in the center of the main hall. If you don't want to die, then swear your loyalty and kill the people from the southern mountain range and family who. Otherwise, die. As Feng Luan's voice rang out, the people from the various forces who were surrounded in the main hall panicked. They looked at the huge vines that were rushing towards them from all directions. The entire main hall was almost cut into countless webs by these thick blood-colored bodies. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth vibrated. The entire main hall was lightly trembling because of these thick blood-colored python-like vines. And under the senses of these people, the aura of these vines was still growing. If this continued, they wouldn't have any chance of survival. The people from the various families looked at the exit array that was surrounded by the people from the Ouyang family in despair. Now, a large group of people from the Ouyang clan was also charging towards them under the command of the Ouyang clan master. The sealed Saint King's tomb was surrounded by blood-red vines, and the Ouyang clan's people were eyeing it covetously, waiting for an opportunity to kill. At this moment, the people from the various families were filled with regret. If they had known that the Ouyang clan was capable of capturing them in one fell swoop, They would never have been tempted by the map of the sage monarch's tomb and come here. Right now there was no one to respond to his cries for help. There was no other choice but to submit and swear allegiance. We are willing to pledge our allegiance. We're willing. When the first person took the lead to say such words, the people from the other families and forces also gave up resisting. One by one they were unwilling but had no choice but to swear their loyalty. Soon after they aimed their attacks at Yu Huang and the others. In an instant, Yu Huang and family whose people became the target of public criticism. Everyone's spearheads were all aimed at them. If the people from the various families didn't want to die, they had to rely on Feng Wan and kill Yu Huang and the others. In the room where the sage monarch's coffin was placed. Boom boom boom. A series of violent explosions suddenly came from the room. Chapter 15:11. Swoosh. Luo Qingtong's figure and Snowball's figure missed the Huo family head. She raised the long sword in her hand and felt the fusion and solidification of the strength and comprehension in her body. The smile on her lips became more and more flamboyant. On the other side, the Huo family head's heart was like a raging storm. He originally thought that if he attacked with all his strength, Luo Qingtong would definitely not be able to withstand it. Who would have thought that the young man relied on the long sword in his hand and the sage realm demonic beast to contend with him for so long? Clearly, the young man was only at the peak of the martial spirit realm, not even at the sage realm, but he repeatedly avoided the strongest part of his attacks. As a result, almost all of his attacks did not land on her body. Every time, some of the aftershocks blasted towards her and were then shattered by her. And, was it his imagination? He kept feeling that the other party's strength seemed to have increased a little. This kind of increase was not in strength but in quality and comprehension. The other party's use of martial skills and strength seemed to have become more harmonious. Thinking of this, the Huo family head's eyes suddenly darkened. He seemed to have thought of something and then he became angry. You. He raised his hand and pointed at Luo Qingtong and shouted angrily, "You used me to practice your moves and consolidate your strength." The Huo family head was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He desperately wanted to kill Luo Qingtong, but the other party used his carelessness to practice her moves and consolidate her strength. As Patriarch Huo thought about it, he felt a sense of shame in his heart. Bastard! You're courting death. The Huo family head was so angry that his whole body was about to explode. With a boom, he shook his sleeves and no longer cared about the loss of strength and used his strongest move. In an instant, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the entire room violently surged. A suffocating feeling like the eve of a volcanic eruption enveloped the entire room. Under the influence of the Huo family head's aura, the entire room seemed to be shrouded in a layer of low pressure. As the Huo family head's aura rose, the entire room was buzzing and trembling. Yijiu, I won't let you have any chance of survival this time. After repeated failures, the Huo clan head no longer dared to underestimate the slender youth in front of him. However, no matter how powerful he was only at the peak of the martial spirit realm. He'd utilized his full strength and utilized his aura to activate a secret technique at the Saint realm. He refused to believe that Xianxia would be able to survive such an attack. The only way to accomplish this was if Luo Qingtong possessed strength comparable to a Saint realm expert in the martial spirit realm. But how was that possible? Let's not talk about whether Luo Qingtong had such power. Even if she did, it was not her own power. She could not use it. Even if Luo Qingtong had obtained a great opportunity in this room, she would still die in his hands. This time he would definitely not fail. As the Huo family head thought of this, he suddenly sneered. At this moment, Luo Qingtong had also felt that the power of the martial spirit realm that she was not very familiar with before was gradually familiarized and perfected by her during the confrontation with the Huo family. Seeing that the Huo family head had guessed her purpose just now, she smiled faintly. Her strength had been completely tempered. Even if the Huo family head did not notice, she was ready to stop and send him on his way. After chasing her for so long and suppressing her for so long, the Huo family head must be feeling very good, right? Chapter 15:12. Buzz. Luo Qingtong flipped her left hand and in an instant, the heart of the 1,000-year soul-luring tree appeared in her palm, which was hidden in the black sleeve of her robe. Streaks of power that belonged to the soul of the Holy King from before entered Luo Qingtong's body. The aura in the girl's body boiled. In this stormy space, it was like a suppressed volcano. It was boiling on the inside, but there was no movement on the outside. But once it erupted, it immediately had the power to burn heaven and earth. I don't know if the man's move can reach the level of perfection with the power of the Holy King? Luo Qingtong's heart was inexplicably filled with anticipation. Xianxia's strength was the strongest she had ever seen in her life. She had never been able to find out the bottom of his strength. Because of the matter of the heavenly pulse body, the man had always been secretive about his matters outside the domain. Luo Qingtong also didn't like to delve into it. Anyway, when her strength reached a certain level in the future, even if Xianxia didn't say anything, she would know. Why bother to ask at this time? Clang. The death blade transformed from the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand suddenly jumped under the stimulation of the power of the Holy King that Luo Qingtong had injected into her body. A faintly discernible black figure of death appeared from the death blade in Luo Qingtong's hand. Luo Qingtong looked at the faintly discernible black figure that appeared and was suddenly stunned. At this moment, the Hua family had launched his attack. Thousand Mountains spiritual chi cut. Following the Hua family head's shout. In an instant, all the spiritual chi in the entire room was transformed into a huge spiritual chi sword with a wave of his hand. Before he raised his hand or raised his foot, he directly took away all the control of the spiritual chi. In a sense, the Holy Realm was considered to have touched the threshold of the heavenly way. Boom boom boom. The huge sword slashed towards Luo Qingtong from the front. Wherever it passed, the decorations in the room, which had not been damaged in the previous confrontation between Luo Qingtong and the Hua family head, all made cracking sounds. Small cracks appeared on the outside. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. The blood-red light in her eyes flickered violently. Under such circumstances, the Hua family head's attack, the spiritual energy data, attack speed, and other aspects were all displayed in Luo Qingtong's eyes. In an instant, Luo Qingtong's eyes locked onto the point of attack in front of her. With her previous strength, even Snowball's strength, she wouldn't have been able to break it open. But now, Luo Qingtong fiercely grasped the thousand-year soul-guiding wood's tree heart in her left hand, and then swung the death blade in her right hand. Heaven-conquering art. Seize heaven's fortune. As Luo Qingtong's sword slashed out. In an instant, the whole room seemed to have been split open by Pangu. The powerful spiritual chi pressure that surged in the entire room was completely cleaved apart. A bright and dazzling sword light seemed to have come from the vast starry sky and also seemed to have come from the indescribable end of time. It broke through the oppressive spiritual energy and then flew towards the huge spiritual sword that was flying towards Luo Qingtong. Boom boom boom.